Peter with BibleMoneyMatters.com, talking today about some really strange, not normal, unconventional ways that people are using to save money these days. We're in a tough economy nowadays with a lot of people losing a lot of money in their 401k accounts, losing jobs, going into foreclosure and so forth, and so people are finding new ways to save money, and some of those ways aren't really all that conventional. A lot of them I wouldn't personally do, and I'm sure a lot of you probably wouldn't either, but in any event, people are doing these things. First thing that I saw that people are actually doing out there, and there are actually websites that will tell you how to do this, is people are stopping using toilet paper. Now, for me, that just sounds really awful and gross, but basically what people will do is they'll go buy at a discount store or somewhere like that, they'll buy a big stack of old washcloths, and then they basically use those washcloths instead of toilet paper. And then in the bathroom they have a kind of a bucket or a bin or whatever filled with a water and bleach solution, that once you're done with it you throw it in there, and then it takes care of some of the smell and so forth. And then they just dump that out afterwards into the washing machine, wash the stuff separately with an extra bleach solution, and there you go. So that's what a lot of people are doing. Again, that's not one that I would personally do, but it is an option. Other people have suggested that you just install and use a bidet on your toilet to use less toilet paper. That might be a more acceptable option for a lot of people. Another thing, kind of a weird thing that people are doing, is dumpster diving for food or other useful items. You'll even go to, there's websites out there where people will actually make an art form out of dumpster diving. They'll furnish their entire homes from stuff that they got out of the dumpster. They'll find food that the grocery stores had thrown in the dumpster and that still might be good, or all sorts of stuff. But it is a thing that people are doing. Another thing, flush the toilet. Again, back on the toilet thing, flush using less water. What they'll do is they'll fill up a 2-liter jug or even a smaller bottle with sand or rocks and put that into the toilet tank to displace water, so that when they flush it'll use less water and thereby reducing their water bill. A commenter also suggested maybe just adjusting the float in your toilet tank in order to stop the flow of water earlier as well. That might be a feasible option for some folks. Another thing that people are doing, they're making their own home products, their own shampoo, their own deodorant, their own fabric softener, all kinds of stuff like that. There's a whole underground scene of people making their own home products. If you go back to the post on BibleMoneyMatters.com, there's actually links to a bunch of these types of things where you can actually go and make your own soap, make your own fabric softener, and a bunch of other things. So check that out. A lot of people are starting to forego having a car. This might work a little bit better if you live in more of an urban area, a city where there's lots of transportation, public transportation like trains or buses and so forth. But other people are even using ride-share type things where they'll get together with other folks and carpool, or if they need a car really bad at some point for a trip or something, they'll just rent the car instead of actually buying a car. So it might be a little extreme for you, but something that people are doing. Another thing, people buy their groceries farm direct. They'll go directly to a local farm, might be a hobby farm in their area or even just a whole working farm, and they'll buy their groceries, vegetables and so forth direct from the farm. Some will even buy a whole hog or a whole cow and then freeze all the meat and save a ton of money that way, because meat can be extremely expensive at the grocery store. Some people are living in extremely small houses. If you go back to the post, you can see a picture of some of these tiny houses, but basically it's a little tiny 15 by 15 or 10 by 10 tiny house that people can actually tow behind their car in some instances, but extremely small houses, small footprint, supposedly green, much more green for people to live in these houses. But again, that's something I'd probably do because I feel like I need a little bit more space to spread out, but definitely an option. Roast and brew your own coffee. This is something my brother's actually doing. He has his own site at thepeoplesroast.com. But basically you just buy your green coffee direct from the source, And so instead of buying your roasted coffee at your Dunn Brothers or your Starbucks, you buy the green coffee, you roast it in something like a popcorn popper or an actual coffee roaster, and the cost of the coffee then drops dramatically just because you're buying the green coffee instead of the roasted coffee. Another thing people do, never buy new. Always buy everything you get secondhand. Now there are some cases where you can't do that for the most part. You can't buy a secondhand car seat for your baby, for example, just because the law won't allow it. But a lot of things you can just buy secondhand and they're going to be just as good as new. Baby clothes, furniture, clothing, you name it. There's tons of stuff you can get secondhand. You really don't need to buy new unless you really want to. And finally, a lot of people are just foregoing subscription services or services that they do have. They're asking for a reduction on the price from the company, and a lot of times that's all you really need to do in order to get a reduction is just ask or threaten to cancel that service. Even if you don't want to leave the service, ask for price reduction. It can't hurt. Worst they can do is say no. So those are a few ideas of some little more unconventional things that people are doing to save money. I'd love to hear some of your money saving ideas as well. Leave a comment on YouTube or on the post on Bible Money Matters. Thanks.